Hello, 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 beautiful soul. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are in this beautiful world. We have an amazing guest celebrity to share with you today. Her name is Margaret Ann Lembo. We've been kind of Facebook friends for a while now, and now it's actually a treat to be able to meet her face to face via technology as she's in Florida and I'm in El Paso, Texas. This is the Angel Lady, and I'm your host for Success and Prosperity Mastery interview series. Let's get right to it because this lady has been doing this a very, very long time, and she has a lot to share with all of us and all of you. So, without further ado, Margaret Ann Lembo is the owner of the Crystal Garden, a conscious living gift store and bookstore in Palm Beach County, Florida. For close to 30 years, she has led workshops, classes around the U.S., and Margaret Ann is highly renowned for her dedication to helping people focus on mindfulness and positive thought. Her audio CDs, and there are quite a few of them, ladies and gentlemen, are distributed nationally, and she has written quite a few books. Some of the books that she's written are The Essential Guide to Aromatherapy and Vibrational Healing, Chakra Awakening, Transform Your Reality Using Crystals, Color, Aromatherapy, and the Power of Positive Thought. The Essential Guide to Crystals, Minerals, and Stones, and Color Your Life with Crystals, your first guide to color, crystals, and chakras. The Angel Decks, Angels and Gemstone Guardians, Archangels and Gemstone Guardians, Crystal Intentions Oracle, Masters, Mystics, Saints, and the Gemstones. All amazing, amazing, amazing. There are 9 audio CDs. I'll just read a few of them. Meet Your Master, Open Your Heart to Love, Chakra Balancing, Crystal Alignment, Cord Cutting. That would be very, very incredibly powerful. Cord Cutting, Releasing the Energetic Ties of the Past. Well, beautiful lady, welcome to Success and Prosperity Mastery. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me here. This is an honor and a privilege. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Would you please share with us how you got started? I mean, 30 years for the Crystal Garden, that's amazing.
That's pretty, I agree with you. That is amazing. But when I really got started was as a little girl. I really did. When, I was born and raised in Catholicism. And so that started my connection with the angelic realm. But it really started even before, training with, school and going to church and all that jazz, because I perceived my Catholic upbringing more as magical and mystical, and thank goodness for that. But prior to that, my family, specifically my mom, led me to believe, and I think that she was right, that I am related to an angel in heaven, because she had a baby that passed away 2 years before I was born. And I was sort of a miracle child because she was 46 at the time, back in 1957. And so it was a big deal. Yes. You can understand that muffled. And that was a big deal. So, I always believed, felt the energy of angels surrounding me. I communicated with them. It was just a normal thing. And so I grew up with that and continued to stay connected with that for guidance, insight, inspiration. And so now today, still to this day, I still share those teachings and share that those experiences to help people recognize, man, we have an entourage. We have legions of angels helping us. You know that.
Yes, I do. How have the angels helped you in not just your business, well, your business, yes, and in your life? Because once you have invited them in, it kind of goes together. That's my experience. It's not really separating your life and your business anymore.
No, there is no, when you're self-employed especially, there's no separation of business, and because it's my life passion, it's my work. Well, I've had various experiences that maybe were more dramatic when I was younger while I was still a mortgage banker, because I did start out in the corporate world, and I did have a few experiences where, appearances of people out of nowhere and then they disappear that helped save the day. Once was had to do with being stuck in a um, uh, what is it called? I always forget the name of what it's called when you're stuck in water and you can't get out of the ocean. A riptide. I was stuck in a riptide,
Oh,
my
wow.
father and I, and man came out of nowhere and was also, when we, got to the shoreline, he was also nowhere. So it was that quick and interesting. And there were three of us, so it's not like one of us was making it up. But then as far as, and that's like here we come to save the day kind of a thing. Whereas with working with angels on a regular basis, they are in business is an aspect of knowing that you can telepathically, mind to mind and heart to heart, communicate with the angelic realm to bring messages to the divine, to God, goddess, creator, to help on the wings of the angels to bring that information, that request, whether it's request for guidance, request for help, request for inner peace, for so many things. I want to give you a specific example. This is cool. So there was a period of time when I didn't have all of my staff wasn't fabulous. I currently have an amazing staff. But there was a period of time where I was challenged by an employee that I knew needed to not be there anymore. So I knew I needed to, draw in the right employee on my staff. So I prayed. I got in my pool, and I have a saltwater pool in my backyard. I'm talking to you from my home office. And so I prayed and I prayed and I prayed out loud. And I asked the angels from all the directions. I called in Archangel Michael from the east, Archangel Raphael from the south, Archangel Gabriel from the west, and Archangel Uriel from the north. And I said, okay, guys, all four of you, my team, I feel like they're my bodyguards. I said, I need great staff. I have work to do on this planet and I need support. I need the support so that I can do what I need to do. And I'm happy to pay her. Pay them, whoever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know, I came in from the pool and sat down at my computer, looked at my laptop. At the time I was on a laptop, and I saw my email, and it was an email with an amazing resume, and I hired her on the spot. And
I'm just
so
getting
when we
chills on my legs.
Good. So they help in so many ways. Is that the kind of thing you were looking for as far as insights regarding
Absolutely, because there are
so
many amazing, beautiful souls out there who are wanting to live their purpose, either start it, figure it out, or to do it more. If they could just figure out how to blend the two, using the angels and their spirit guides, crystals, colors, the chakras, because it really is multidimensional. It's not just one part or one piece, which is, to me, is amazing. And it's like, well, yeah, but it's not that way for everyone, especially in the beginning or in the middle of their journey, because how do you align? How do you become to such a place where you actually trust that what you're getting is right? And how do you follow the right path? Are you on the right path? None of the questions you've ever heard before, right?
Well, and this is you're right, but I have heard this, but it is important to talk about this, because in the beginning of the journey, we do have a lot of doubts. And one of the things that I would like to recommend for those people who are wanting to delve into establishing a spiritually based business, let's call it that, perhaps. Maybe they want to do private counseling, or they want to do chakra balancing, or they want to open a store like mine, the Crystal Garden, whatever it is. I always have found that it's beneficial to have diversification. because I also come from an entrepreneurial background. So I don't think you just quit your job and then expect the angels to drop money in your lap or provide you with clients. So to this day, I have multiple, I mean, this is 28 and a half years, almost 30 years later, still multiple ways that income can come into my life to support my life, my business, my household. And so you may still, maybe you might reduce the hours that you're working where you currently are and add, or maybe you start out, maybe you don't even reduce the hours, still work a full-time job, and then nights and weekends, if you're dedicated and you enjoy it and it's a passion, just go ahead and start doing it, because you have to build a platform. You have to build a following of people. Make sure you collect emails. Make sure you friend them on Facebook and Instagram, because doing all those social media platform and email connections is part of the journey as well, because it is still business. And how are they going to find out about your great events if you have no way to contact them? And then as time goes on, then you can say, okay, I'm going to work 30 hours a week, both, with an employer, or 28 hours a week. And the rest of the time, I'm going to increase how much time I use for my passion or my spiritually based business. And then over time, find different avenues for income. I want to share real quick, during 2008 stock market crash, when the big recession and nobody could find a job. They all were saying that. Well, I snubbed my nose at that belief system. I really did. And I'm sure some people were agitated with me, because I believe that there was still plenty of people with plenty of money who wanted the goods or services that I offered. And so I use that as an affirmation, because you know that I'm all about positive affirmation. So you might hold a pyrite gemstone or a green aventurine gemstone and say that over and over again. There are plenty of people with plenty of money who want the goods and services that I offer. And there really are plenty. And so you can incorporate even aromatherapy, and even use, like I created a prosperity mist, but even if you don't have my prosperity mist, you can still find a scent, an essential oil, preferably real medical grade essential oil, that makes you feel wealthy, that makes you feel good about being wealthy, and incorporate that and spray the oil or inhale the oil while you say certain affirmations and hold that gemstone or wear the gemstone.
That is so true. You can do just about anything as long as it has meaning and resonance for you. And long ago, I worked for the U.S. Border Patrol as an executive admin assistant. So I was there, full time, and doing it nights and weekends. So it's a great way to start, because it does help to build confidence and whatnot. So tell us more about how the chakras, okay, I'm being guided to ask you what it is you'd like to share. So
well, you actually were targeted in on that, because, talking about the chakras, the energy centers of our body, mind and spirit. So that's physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So, we know we have a physical body, but we have the mental body. What's going on in our mind? What are we thinking about all the time? Because that's what creates our reality. What do we feel, and how do things make us feel? That also creates our reality. And then our spiritual connection with the divine. So the chakra system, which I go into great detail in my first book, Chakra Awakening, is a way that we can uncover aspects of ourselves. Personal development is really about looking within ourselves to know our own personal truth. And we may realize that some of the programs or truths, and I'm doing air quotes, truths that were installed in our consciousness may be applied back in the 1940s or 50s for our parents, or 30s, whatever time frame. But now it's 2017 as of today, and some of those programs no longer apply. It's sort of like, you can't still use DOS on a computer system. The programs aren't going to work. So whenever we get a new computer, and we all go through this, you get a new computer, it's a new operating system, you have to get all new programs. Same thing with our own consciousness. As we continue to upgrade our consciousness, we may need to uninstall, if that means mindfulness, coming aware of what is running underneath, uninstall those programs, and then decide consciously, what do I want to believe? What do I want to think? And it really does work. And that's why the cord cutting CD that you mentioned, that's one of the reasons I created that, because I found that people needed to do it over and over and over again, myself included, all of us, to release certain belief systems that no longer work. So then the chakras, which have aspects of our beingness, like red energy at the root has to do with physical vitality and our belief systems about money. Orange at the navel has to do with creativity and our ability to take action and move forward. Sometimes we think, oh, I can, I want to do that someday. Well, I say, get yourself a piece of carnelian or wear some orange clothes for a while until you take the action. Because we could talk about it for a long time, but not actually take the action.
Yes.
And then yellow energy at the solar plexus is about self-esteem and self-confidence and knowing that you're worthy to do this and to do good work, and that you're, have what it takes to do it, and that takes courage. It does. Heart center, green and pink, that's like feeling the true authentic nature of who we truly are, being in touch with the love that we are, and remembering that we can share the love that we are and help other people as we learn. We don't have to be the ultimate expert. We can start sharing with what we figured out so far, and then we can keep sharing as life goes on. Throat chakra, that is about sharing, communication, expressing ourselves, being able to hear the messages from the divine and trust in that intuition that's coming through. Third eye is all the intuitive aspects of ourself, all the clair, as I call them, clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, and so on. And of course, the crown chakra, which is the connection with the heavenly realm and our authentic connection with God, Goddess, Creator. So as we get familiar with these and delve into each one of these chakra system parts of our chakras, our energy centers, we can gain clarity. And then with clarity, then we can decide what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And we're going to stay focused on what we do want instead of what we don't want.
So true.
So that's my story.
Well, I love your story. I love it very much. And it's so true about focusing on what we want instead of what we don't want. And there are so many people that inadvertently focus on what they don't want, thinking that that's what they're creating space for what they do want. And a long time ago, when I first started out full time, there's a whole story with that. It was abrupt. Within 24 hours, yes, I went from being fully employed to being totally on my own. And the way it happened, without taking away from you and your story here, I got the definite message that I was not to go back to work, quote unquote. So it was quite amazing. I was laid off, and then within 24 hours fired from the same job, and then received an overnight express mailed letter that I'm not rehirable, all from the same position. I mean, if that wasn't a big neon glowing sign, I don't know what was. But how did you, and maybe this wasn't an issue for you, but how did you feel worthy and deserving of not only doing the work, but then charging whatever it is you charge, and then starting a store? That's a big deal.
No, it is. All of that is fabulous. Okay, so I too had the cosmic 2x4. The stock market crash of 1987. I went from a senior vice president with a very large division, with lots of employees. And then the stock market crashed, and it wasn't personal to me. They just closed the Florida branch. and I was the senior VP in charge of that branch. So my job was gone. I had the good fortune of having an employment contract, so they still had to pay me for a little while. But I was still devastated. It was my, at that time, that was part of my life purpose. And I was a good mortgage banker. I was a banker, not a broker. I was authentically helping people get into their homes, making good business investments for the bank, but also banking the customer right so they could afford that home. This was back in 1987 when Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were still having good rules on lending. Anyway, so I was devastated because my sense of identity was so wrapped up in being a mortgage banker and doing that work. So I had that dark night of the soul, like you probably experienced, similar. And a lot of people don't have this happen. Mine happened during my Saturn return. For those that are listening that might know about astrologically, when your Saturn comes back to where it was when you were born, if you're not where you're supposed to be, shakes you up a little to get, you on target. So after I got over myself, which took not all that long because I was, in retrospect, it felt like forever, but at the time it felt like forever. But after about, I would say, 2 or 3 months, I just, pulled my, what do I want to say, big girl panties on, or put myself up by my bootstraps, all those different kinds of expressions. And I did have the good fortune of having a family that had an empty piece of property that I could start a business in. That always helps, but I just followed my gut and I just did it. Now, did I know what I was doing? No, not at all. Took me years before I knew how to be a retailer, because that's, bookseller, retailer is what I am, in addition to being a spiritual entrepreneur, teacher, teacher of, various things, as you know. And I just kept going. And whenever I felt that, when is this going to ever bring income in, I would have, a good old talk with the divine. Now, as you can tell by my New York accent that never went away, I would just pull out what I call my New York Italian and say, what is going on here? If you want me to do this work, I need help and support. Inspire me. Show me what I'm supposed to do. If you don't want me to do this, show me what you do want me to do. I'm a willing being to do the work, And there would always be signs and symbols. Somebody would come in and maybe make a big purchase at the store. Or someone would come write a letter about how much they didn't know what they would do if it wasn't for me or the crystal guard. Something would happen that would say, okay, I got the message. I will stay focused. I'll stay on course, and I'll continue to do the work. Regarding feeling okay with accepting the right amount of financial, I still to this day don't charge what other people of my experience charge. Partly because I can, and I want to still be somewhat affordable. And to some people, they would say that's not that affordable, Margaret. But to others, they realize the difference in pricing from someone of my magnitude. Not trying to get too full of myself, but But it did take a while. It took a long while and I think that has to do with cutting the cords of the past, where maybe how many lifetimes was I a nun? How many lifetimes was I a monk? How many lifetimes had it been installed in my consciousness that you don't take money for spiritual work? So I had to really work on that.
Yes. And it's not where we healers are supported by the community or the villages anymore. And that's where so many healers are having difficulty because, well, it's a gift. Yes, it's a gift. You have still studied in this lifetime. You have still developed it. You're still practicing, because I call it, I'm still practicing myself. Been doing it not anywhere close to how long you have, but I'm still practicing it every day. That's how I see it. I spoke with a young woman earlier this week, and she's doing amazing work. And she's received guidance on how much to charge for the land clearing and energizing, but she hasn't even started charging yet, and she's in debt. I'm thinking, okay, so when are you going to start?
Yeah, I don't see how that's a good model for others, because I want a model that it is acceptable to be financially successful, to have plenty of money, to be one of those people that have plenty of money to have the goods and services that other people offer, you know? So there's no reason, and that I think is a matter of starting on a root chakra, from the chakra level, root chakra
Mm-hmm.
level, to uncover what belief system, and starting in this lifetime. It might be that I don't know about you, but there are plenty of people that have parents that were alive during the Great Depression. And so
Yes.
they had, family hold back constantly. I still cut up paper and don't throw it out. I still reuse paper. I mean, there are certain things that I'm mindful, that's good for the ecology too. But there are things that I don't save the saran wrap anymore.
I hear
So
you.
being mindful not to be wasteful, but we're not in a state of deprivation where we can't get certain goods, and we have the ability. Everyone has the ability to have financial income. It's a matter of deciding, what do you love, what is your
Mm-hmm.
purpose, getting clear on that, as clear as you can. That doesn't mean your purpose isn't going to change, but start somewhere and just do it. My dad used to say to me, I'd go to him and I'd say, do you think I should do blah, 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 whatever it was? And he'd say, I don't know, but you don't know until you try, do you, Margaret Ann? And I'm like, oh, that's true. So he said, just do it. You might end up somewhere else, but start there. You could always do something different. And so that's how I was brought up with that kind of mentality. I was brought up with the power of positive thought from really little, really little. I had a mentor that taught me about Edgar Casey, and actually read The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol when I was like 6 or 7. Was already being installed in my consciousness at a young age that whatever
Mm-hmm.
you believe becomes a reality. Whatever you focus your attention on is what's going to become manifest.
So many people on their spiritual path did not have the upbringing that you did. My mom is more out of the closet now, spiritually speaking, but back then she kept it very hidden, and I didn't even know about it until I was very much grown. So it was interesting. She had power of positive thought, but it wasn't not to the scale that what you were brought up with. My dad was, when we had people over for dinner, if there were 8 people, there were enough food for 16. So I know he went hungry. And my mom can make a meal out of the samples in a grocery store. So I know there were some issues. And I used to get really embarrassed. It's like, you know what? She's 85. I'm not going to worry about it. But these are things that people inherit in their DNA and their energy. And about the cord cutting, it's really so powerful and very necessary to do that. And even though you've already cut all your cords from the past, do you find that you still get to, I don't like to say need to, but get to do that often because of the work that you do?
You mean as far as where I need to do cord cutting for myself more
Mm-hmm.
often on certain
Yes.
issues? Sure. Certain things in my life, it's not as often as I used to need to, because I've really worked on certain things. But
Right.
things come up. It's not like it just disappears, like it never happened. Sure, it happened, but the fact that one actually recognizes that a certain situation or a certain person may have caused a challenge,
Mm-hmm.
the realization, the awareness, that's the awakening of consciousness. You go, okay, well, that isn't true anymore. That was then. This is now. I'm in this
Exactly.
moment. And in this current moment, this is my truth. And you decide what it is that you want to create or do. So, I wasn't always an author, but I decided that I would become one after a couple of other things that happened that made me realize that was part of my path.
Mm-hmm.
Did I buy into that you have to submit 60 or more proposals to various publishers that are going to get rejected. I did not buy into that. I said maximum of 10 proposals, and then in the end, the house is going to come to me and ask me to write for them. And did that happen? Yes, it did. And still to this day it does. That still to this day. I get requests from either or both of the houses where they say, would you like to write about XYZ? And I'll say, wonderful, yes. Or, whatever it is. Most of the time it's a yes, because they know me, they know my subject. But my point is, is that we can create that reality. We don't have to struggle. There's enough struggle in the world. So in my case, I know that because I was gifted with being born into a family and situations that the power of positive thought and having lots of love around and very limited negative situations. Of course, we live on the planet. It's part of the planet is duality,
Right.
But I feel like it's part of my job. I know it's part of my job to continue to do as much as possible, as often as possible, both for a fee and also free. There's a ton of free content that I provide to try to help as many people as possible so that if they can't afford it, they still have some access to the good teachings and power of positive thought that isn't something I created. It's something that many, many teachers before me, from, Norman Vincent Peale and so many others that I can't even think of their names right now, that had been teaching, this truth of what we think becomes reality. So I match it up with the vibrations of crystals and gemstones because people love crystals. They love their rocks. And it makes sense because of the colors that are associated with the chakra system, And so if you can match a positive thought with a gemstone, then you can hold that rock and think that good thought. And every time you look at that rock, every time you touch that rock, every time you maybe wear the rock, that's right. I'm wearing this because I remember that I am magnificent, or I am prosperous and abundant. I attract loving people and supportive and loyal friends into my life. Now, in the beginning, that may not be true for them. They might be saying, I am so making this up. It's like, okay, make it up. Make believe is powerful. The imagination is the key,
It so is, and we use whatever tools and techniques to help us get there. And I don't see anything other than it being powerful. I mean, we wear different colors and we associate with different people, and there's something I'm being nudged to come back to, being a model for it's okay to have financial security, freedom, and wealth. Because look at what you're doing as an example. Because of the income that you have and will continue to generate, you're able to employ others. And it's not just in the Crystal Garden. It's in the places like the people who publish your books. Yes, it's one book among many, but it is part of the whole. And the crystal people, and the incense people, and the candle people, and the whoever people. By having your shop, you are helping the cycle of other spiritual souls here on earth to live their purpose, because some people it's candle making, and my goodness, look at what they do.
You are so correct. You are so correct. So often I'm focused on my own staff, wanting them to be able to get bonuses as much as often as I can. But you're right about, there are certain rock dealers and my gemstone vendors, and you're right about all the others. And I do very well on my store, and therefore I'm ordering from them. And that means all those people are also having financial success. And the same with the publishing houses. As you probably know, you get very little as an author as income off of your books. I'm going like this. Can you see how well?
Yeah, that's exactly.
But it also creates a realization that it's like a calling card. It signifies expertise. So I'm okay with that.
Yes, people say, "Oh, you're you're an Amazon bestseller. I said, yes. And in my head, I say, if you could see the commission checks. And yet it's part of the whole because it's helping get the information out. It's part of the calling. And to say no is, as one of my marketing teacher says, resistance is futile. And it's like, yep. I don't know where that came from, maybe Star Wars or something, but it certainly, resistance is futile. So once you've said kind of okay or yes to your calling, to your life purpose, it's Katie, bar the door and get ready for change, because once you invite angels and even crystal energy into your life, it's almost not yours anymore. You still have choice, but it's kind of not yours anymore.
There's an aspect of that for sure. It's also, we can ignore the guidance, but then when we get to the pearly gates, the so-called pearly gates, they'll be like, so I always refer to it as a contract, because I have that business sense. It's like, they'll be looking at your contract going, let's take a look at how you did while you were down there. You said you wanted to do this. Did you? And then not in a judgmental way, because it isn't judgment. It's just a matter of a life review. Did we accomplish what we set out to do? And that's, once we have the realization of what it is, then I would hope that the passion would light a fire that would propel each and every one of us forward to be the best human we can be and do what we need to do, and have fun. I love what I do. I'm so grateful. And I'm a ham bone, so I love to be on air and interviews and, ooh, I get to do hair and makeup and go on air, So what? Make it fun, and I'm helping people in the process, just like you are.
Helping people in the process. Well, we are just about at our time, beautiful Margaret Ann. Is there anything that you'd like to share as a ending point, a takeaway?
The takeaway I'd like to share is a positive thought form. It's also like it's also like outlined in my 5th chapter in Chakra Awakening, but here's an affirmation. I am love. All that is attracted to me and all that surrounds me is love. So I'm leaving that affirmation, which I'll say again in a moment, so that each and every one of us can remember that is really who we are in our truth. And the more that we focus on that and if we can't think of anything else to think about I am love. All that is attracted to me and all that surrounds me is love.
Thank you. That is a beautiful, beautiful way to just kind of end. And I could tell we could talk for hours and days. So thank you so much. I am love. That is fabulous. Would you repeat it once more, please, beautiful Margaret Ann?
I will. I am love. All that is attracted to me and all that surrounds me is love.
And with that, beautiful souls, we'll talk with you again. Bye-bye for now.